Hey guys, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today I'm going to be showing you my curated collection inspired by my first time watching Twilight. Okay, I'm sorry, I cannot keep in character because I keep laughing, but yeah, I have mentioned it once or twice on my channel before that I have never seen the Twilight movie, or I guess any of the movies, read any of the books, whatever. I just never got into them, and so I kind of wanted to see what the hype was about since this is peak Twilight season, and I figured it would be really fun to do a little curated collection video for it. So again, this isn't going to be like a movie review by any means, but I will save more of my thoughts about the movie for the end. For now, let me just show you the polishes. First up, I have Cracked Polishes Another Day in the PNW, which I think is probably one of the best polishes in this lineup. Twilight takes place in Forks, Washington, and the whole movie has this like greenish, gray, blue filter, which I think this polish captures perfectly. It might be crazy to say, but I feel like the shimmer color is the exact color match for that filter. And Cracked Polish is also based in Washington, so again, it just seems like a perfect match since Monique was able to perfectly capture the moody and gloomy days the Pacific Northwest gets. Next up, I have Morgan Taylor's Just Hanging Around, which just came out in their recent fall collection. This one is a super dark and muted, steely blue, but maybe with a teal undertone. I always struggle describing the specific shades of blues, but the minute I saw this shade, I thought it would be perfect for this lineup. I think the name can also be kind of a cute reference to the part when Edward says, "Hold on tight, spider monkey." Then I have a couple of Mooncats. The first one that I have is Like a Moth to a Flame, which is this really dark gray crelly filled with a red to orange to yellow shifting shimmer. I chose this one mainly to represent the attraction that Bella feels towards Edward, even though he literally was gagging when she walked into the classroom and went to go sit next to him. She still was just completely hooked, wanted to get closer to him, even though he was actively pushing her away because he was afraid of hurting her. The next Mooncat I have is Dark Omens, which is actually a thermal. It's this dark charcoal kind of color when it's in the cold state as seen here that transitions to a medium purple when warm. I thought this thermal worked well with the color palette that I was going for, but I also really like the name too, at least to me, it sort of references when Jacob is telling Bella about the legend of the Cold Ones, like when they're walking along La Push and there's just these super dark cliffs and rocks in the background. I feel like that color just kind of matches this darker charcoal shade here. And then for the purple, in my mind, I'm like, okay, that can kind of tie into the whole spiritual, supernatural sort of realm, or maybe occult is the better word because, you know, we're dealing with vampires and werewolves. And the last Mooncat that I have is To All Who Ghosted Me, which is another moody gray kind of shade, this time with a blue shimmer. This is one of the shades that I wanted to originally include in my fall favorites video, but I already knew back when I was filming that video that I wanted to do this Twilight video, and I just had a feeling that I would prefer seeing this shade in this lineup. I don't really know how to explain it other than the color, the mood of this polish just gives me Twilight vibes. Maybe the gray base is just reminiscent of like the fog or something. And if anything, I guess the name could maybe allude to how Edward was trying to ghost Bella early on in the movie. The next shade I have is Loud Lacquer's Greyscale, which is a very light gray linear holographic. I of course had to include a polish inspired by Edward's skin in the sunlight where it's like diamonds and Bella thinks it's beautiful, but Edward says the iconic line, "This is the skin of a killer." I know technically his skin isn't gray, but I feel like traditionally vampires are depicted as having very pale gray-like skin, so having a light gray holographic just seemed perfect for this scene. I think it's also kind of funny that you can't tell this is holographic until you see it in the sun. I have another loud shade, and this one is Office in the Trees, which is a deep pine or emerald green. I chose this one to obviously reference the beautiful landscape of the Pacific Northwest. This one looks super dark on camera since it was overcast when I was filming, but in reality, it's a very, very dark and moody green. I don't think the name for this one really has a good reference to anything in the movie. This one really is more so like the color and just being surrounded by all of the beautiful trees, no matter where they are. Holo Taco's brick wall is my pick for Bella's inherited pickup truck when she moves back in with her dad. It's like this old and rusty, beat up car, but she's so excited for it, which I thought was so sweet. I don't know why, I was expecting her to have one of those Sweet 16 meltdowns, if you remember that show, but she was genuinely appreciative, especially since Jacob helped fix it up for her. So again, I think this one is just a perfect kind of color match, or at least as close as I can get to that rusty red pickup truck, but I can't help but think the name is also fitting for the energy that Edward gives her in the beginning, where it's like just talking to a brick wall. I also, of course, had to include Holo Taco's Orbite Me, which is this blood red crushed holographic. I knew when this one came out back in February that it immediately gave me vampy vibes, so it's perfect for this movie since Bella was basically asking Edward to bite her so she can live like him. I'm not gonna lie, I may have gasped at the end because I thought he was going to, but he ended up just giving her neck a kiss, which I guess is romantic, but I don't blame her. If I was in her position, I would be begging for him to bite me too. And speaking of that scene, the last polish that I have is China Glaze's Moonlight the Night, which is this iridescent hex glitter topper. I'm going to be swatching it over Morgan Taylor's Just Hanging Around, but I picked this shade to represent that beautiful scene at the end where Edward takes Bella to prom and they have this little slow dance outside on this beautifully lit gazebo. It is just so romantic. And finally, here is my collage of my Twilight inspired shades. So I genuinely do love how dark and moody and muted these shades are. I feel like the color palette is pretty much what I was originally envisioning. I feel like it's a shame how dark some of these look though on camera, because I feel like you just kind of lose the actual color that they are, like the dark teal or the dark green, but hopefully you see the vision. So that wraps up my curated collection inspired by Twilight. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of this lineup, especially if you are a Twilight fan. Again, this is only inspired by the very first movie, and I had a pretty good idea of the shades that I wanted to use like before watching it. So it was really cool to just like narrow it down and finalize my lineup after watching it. I personally think I did a pretty good job like color palette wise, but I'd love to know what you guys think, and especially if there are any other shades that immediately give you Twilight vibes. And as far as my thoughts on the movie goes, first of all, I have to say thank you to Ryan for watching it with me, because we had only seen Rob Pattinson in The Batman before, so I feel like it's safe to say that Twilight is a bit of a downgrade compared to that movie, but it was entertaining. Like, we were laughing a lot and just cringing at some points, obviously. I mean, I feel like that's expected considering the movie came out in 2008, so it definitely shows, but I get it. I get why people like love the movie. Again, it was just something that I never got into, but if I had gotten into the movies or books back when they came out like in high school, I could see myself easily being like, oh my god, Edward is so mysterious, I love him. It's almost embarrassing to say like how much I see my high school self in Bella loving him, especially with how he like gaslights her and is like mean to her. But it seems pretty typical for, you know, the time of just not knowing any better and falling in love with them because they're attractive. So all in all, it was pretty entertaining. I get the vibes, I understand. I'm not sure if I would watch it again, let alone watch like the rest of the series. Part of me is tempted though, because I kind of just want to see like what ends up happening. I feel like I do know certain kind of like spoilers that happen in the future, because again, the most that I know about Twilight comes from like the memes, which are really funny. So I feel like it would just be fun to finally see the origin of all of them. But yeah, I'm still undecided. Even if I do continue to watch them, I'm not sure if I would do these videos for the future movies, because I imagine they would be pretty like similar to each other. I basically don't want to repeat a lot of shades when it comes to these like curated collection videos, you know? So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this lineup for the first movie. Let me know if you have watched the movie before, or if you were like me that would just kind of like avoid it because, you know, you already like missed the train, so to speak. But it's never too late to watch it. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.